For the first time ever, Florida Atlantic is going to Philadelphia to take on Temple in football. That's on tap Saturday, but also coaching staff changes with FAU's bowl hopes dashed. We welcome you in to the Florida Atlantic Coaches Show here on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network, the flagship Fox Sports 640, as well as foxsports640.com, the free Fox Sports 640 app as well. I'm the voice of Florida Atlantic, Ken LaVicka, and Florida Atlantic comes into the weekend at 2-7 on the season. No longer bowl eligible, or bowl eligibility is not a possibility any longer. Mathematically eliminated after last Thursday's blowout loss at East Carolina. Moving forward, evaluation period as FAU moves into a last three against Temple this weekend, then home against Charlotte and at Tulsa to conclude 2024. Coaching changes. Tom Herman making the decision after the East Carolina defeat to shed defensive coordinator Rock Bellantoni, a defense that has been injured but has also been porous, especially in the last 5 weeks or so. Rock Bellantoni, in his second stint as Florida Atlantic defensive coordinator, is out, just shy of 2 years on the job. Also, along the offensive front, Ed Warner has left the program as well. So Florida Atlantic will be going to Philadelphia with new coaching leadership in both of those rooms, whether it is the defensive coordinator side or along that offensive line. FAU also is going to feature Casey Wiseman, the Colorado transfer, at quarterback. He'll get his first career start. Cam Fancher, the incumbent quarterback, injured, out for the rest of the season, a broken clavicle that he suffered early in the loss to East Carolina. So Fancher's season is done. Casey Wiseman gets the keys to the Florida Atlantic offense. We'll be joined by offensive coordinator Charlie Frye in just a couple of minutes. And later on in the show, of course, Haggerty family head coach Tom Herman. Florida Atlantic at Temple on Saturday, 2 p.m. the kickoff. I'll have it with Mike Mareshko. Mike also has your pregame show starting at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. But plenty of coaches' shows still to come. When we return, offensive coordinator Charlie Frye. This is the Florida Atlantic Coaches Show on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. We welcome you to the Duffys in Boca Raton off St. Andrews. It is the Florida Atlantic Coaches Show on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. FAU football, 3 games left to go in the home stretch, and a matchup with Temple coming up on Saturday. That'll be a 2 o'clock kickoff on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. We'll talk with Haggerty family head coach Tom Herman later on in the program. But first off here tonight on the Florida Atlantic Coaches Show, he's the offensive coordinator. He also handles the quarterbacks for Florida Atlantic. Let's hear it for Charlie Frye here for the first time this season on the Florida Atlantic Coaches Show. And Coach, thank you for coming by. Appreciate it. And I know that it's been a season where it has been a bit of a grind. It has been some roadblocks, some speed bumps along the way, but just from a pure preparing for Temple standpoint, with everything that has been swirling around the program over the last couple of days or so, how is the focus of the offense in particular and the guys that you end up coaching over?
Yeah, I think that this week's been energized, focused. We third down in red area today, okay, and, we're expecting a lot of man coverage and getting those looks, but the focus, the energy of the kids out there, it is what you want to see, and that's, hey, they're trying to go 1-0 every snap, right, and good third down period, and then we get to go against the defense, right, and try to get some speed looks to those plays, and service was good too. So you're feeling good with your third down plan of what you're seeing on film, watching it last night, and then going out and applying it, and that part of the game's looking good. Then you take it down in the red zone. So we had red zone versus scouts, where we're getting the looks expected, and then you get to see that versus live speed with service there too. So it's been a good week, and we got to put the whole thing together tomorrow on Thursday and clean up some things. But we're excited to go play another game.
From a quarterback standpoint, and we've seen Casey Wiseman this season. He is now going to be the starting quarterback due to the season-ending injury to Cam Fancher. But from a preparation standpoint, how much differently do you have to prepare when Cason Wiseman is the starter, just from a perspective of what he brings, what his specialties are, his strengths are compared to a Cam Fancher? How different is that preparation for those two individual quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think you're always trying to play to the quarterback's strength. This is a quarterback game, at all levels. But, the quarterback drives the team, drives the offense. But, as far as a preparation standpoint, I used to hate the slogan, you always prepare as the starter. Well, that's not true. There's one guy that's the starter, and he's getting the bulk, the majority of the reps. But,
right.
When you hear people say that, what they're talking about, is the meetings, the mental prep. And I couldn't be prouder of those guys in that room of what they're putting into the game, from a mental side of, preparing for base. This is what we're expecting on first and second down. These are their top CNN pressures, and really having a prepare for, right, react to mindset when you get to situational football. Third down, red zone, having my cover zero answers, having my man answers. Very impressive of both those kids and Tyreek, of what they're investing in the prep of the game. Because
sure.
that's the forgotten thing is, hey, one guy gets to go play. One guy gets to go play, and it's 4 quarters. But the amount of work that they're investing, just for one game,
right.
It's impressive. But, that's what it takes. And Cason's been doing the same thing this week. Tyreek's been doing the same thing this week. And the fruits of your labor, you never know, like, when it's going to break for you.
Right.
But
right.
you don't ever change that process, because that's the investment that it takes to be successful.
When it comes to Cason Wiseman, for you, as someone who's been around the game for so long, played the game at the highest level, coached the game at the highest level, when you look at the strengths of Cason Wiseman, what are a couple that stand out to you right away where you say, all right, this is going into Saturday what we build around with Cason Wiseman?
Yeah, instincts. He does things that you can say you coach, but you're lying to yourself. Just his instincts of feeling space. There was a play in the game. He threw a flat route for a touchdown last week, and Tua used to do the same thing. Like he had a really good feel on that RPO game of seeing space because the linebacker kind of froze.
Right.
And, he could have gave the ball, or he could have spit the ball. And it's just like instincts. It's hard to coach. It's like a feel for the game. And, man, that backer tucked in there, and he spit the ball to the flat. And his instincts are great. His feel for the game, his energy, right? The energy that he brings to the unit. Just a great competitor, and he's still young, so he's – what I've seen this week from him, is he's been working the position groups.
Okay.
He's been spending, going over to the O-line. Hey, I need this one here. And then he's going over and working the wideouts.
That's
and
sort of wise beyond his years, right?
It is. But that's who he is as a person. Just very, very a lot of energy.
I am not in any way comparing Cason Wiseman to Tua Tagovailoa, who you had in year 2 of his career when you were with the Dolphins. And again, FAU offensive coordinator Charlie Frye with us here on the Florida Atlantic Coaches Show, Florida Atlantic Sports Network. But when it comes to a young quarterback, and especially a quarterback who's still relatively green, do you still apply some of the same teaching tools to a green Tua Tagovailoa that you would a green Cason Wiseman at this level of football?
Absolutely. It's the same. It's just different levels, right? It's the same, and just how they learn. They're so visual. Like the drawings, the black and white drawings. Okay, you're talking curl flat. I get it. But being able to use different tools like PowerPoint and just trying to screenshot pictures and paint pictures for them. And then, something I love doing is going out pregame and taking the call sheet out there and working different spaces on the field and visualizing the plays. Okay, here's your openers, right? Left hash. Here's how we think it's going to unfold. Okay, we'll move down here. It's third down, right? Here's what we're expecting. Okay, here's our red zone. So, it's a very visual position. But if you don't know what it takes to prepare to play at that level, that's what you first have to understand. I had no idea. I had no idea as a young quarterback what it took preparation to play in that league. Like, I never drank coffee till I was a rookie in the NFL. Like, the amount of time, the amount of investment that it takes to just, try to speed that learning curve up. And that's what you're always trying to steal reps, whether it's in Indy, whether it's in 7-on-7, where you're just trying to recreate the game for them.
Here with Charlie Frye again, Florida Atlantic coach, this year FAU offensive coordinator. We'll talk with Haggerty family head coach Tom Herman later on here. We're at the Duffys in Boca Raton of St. Andrews, and it is Florida Atlantic and Temple Saturday, 2 p.m. I'll have the call with Chris Newbold on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. You talked about working on third down and situationally in practice. Third down has been a struggle for the offense this season, and it really doesn't matter if it's third and long or third and short. Last in the American in third down conversion rate. Just with what you observe and what you've seen over the course of the season, what would you diagnose as the biggest issues on third down with the offense?
Well, that's the hardest situation, especially when, what first and second down affecting third down.
No doubt.
The longer the third down yardage is, the more the advantage goes to the defense because they're making you declare what you're going to do. That's when you're getting those edge rushers. That's when you're getting those bluff pressures, which a lot of young quarterbacks are going to see. But here's what it is. The margin for error in this game, especially once you get into conference play, the margin for error is so small. It's so small, so it's the details, right? It's those little things that really show up. 2 inches. 2 inches can be the difference of a completion and an incompletion. So just understanding that the margin for error, is so small that we really got to be our best. We got to be at our best in those third down situations.
When it comes to Case and Wiseman, these next 3 games, you're a happy offensive coordinator. You're a happy quarterback teacher if you see what from Case and Wiseman, health withstanding, over the next 12 quarters of football.
Yeah, so we, every week it's starting with the same things. It's, what's the difference between winning and losing games, right? It's protecting the football. Probably the most important stat in football is not giving it to the other team.
Yeah.
And then, what he does really well is kind of forgotten in quarterback play today with the digital era where everything is communicated right here.
Sure. It's all screen based.
Yeah. So the power of communication. And I think that's one of his elite skills. It's being a field general, right? Being able to connect, right? Challenge, hold guys accountable, that's being a field general. And that's what I want him to be, but that's kind of his makeup as well.
So Case and Wiseman will get the start for Florida Atlantic against Temple. We'll come back more with offensive coordinator Charlie Frye, including a run game that has steadily improved throughout the course of the season, and not what Coach Frye anticipated would be his receiver group as we head to the final 3 weeks of the season before the year started, but a group that's coming along with a lot of talent in that room as well. We'll continue on with offensive coordinator Charlie Frye. Head coach Tom Herman later on in this Florida Atlantic Coaches Show. Back to Duffy's off at St. Andrews and Boca after this on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. Florida Atlantic, Temple, 2 p.m. in Philadelphia. It is the second to last road game for Florida Atlantic in this 2024 campaign. Owls v. Owls here on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. Pregame will begin at 1:30 Eastern Time. I'm Ken LaVicka, continuing on with Florida Atlantic Offensive Coordinator Charlie Frye. We'll have Haggerty family head coach Tom Herman in just a couple of moments here on this Coach's Show. David Shiner, the Shiner Law Group, available to help you 24/7. If you've been injured in an accident at Shiner Law Group, you pay no fee unless they win your case. It's the Shiner Free Guarantee. Don't wait. Speak with a Shiner Law Group lawyer for free today to discuss your case. Shiner Law Group, presenting sponsor of Florida Atlantic football. We're at the Duffys in Boca, right off St. Andrews, and we've talked a lot about the quarterbacks here already, Coach, and getting ready for this Temple game. This running back room for Florida Atlantic has steadily improved over the course of the year, sitting 5th in the American in overall rushing yardage is this FAU offense. And it's not just, Cam Fancher, he's fast and he is able to use his legs. You have 2 running backs in the top 10 in the conference in rushing, in C.J. Campbell and Zuberi Mobley. What do you attribute, keeping in mind that from a pass game standpoint, it has struggled for a good portion of the year. What do you attribute the
rise, the ascension of the rushing production, too, during the course of the season?
Right. Well, it's obviously going to start up front. The game's played up front. So those guys up front getting movement, knocking them back, but in those things, and expecting big things this week. Fed, he's kind of the captain up front, and he's making the calls and getting everybody on the same page. But man, we're needing big things from Church, and those guys, this week alongside him, so that we can get that running game going, right, which will help make things easier for a young quarterback, right? So those things, and then just the way that our running back guys, those guys are wired. Like C.J. Campbell, he's a pro. He is a pro. I mean, his attention to detail, his professionalism and how he works. I mean, we ask him to do a lot, in the two-back sets, right, and getting him outside and throwing him seams and throwing him goes and those things. And you just can't do that. Like the work that he's putting into it is the same work that LaJonte was doing last year, because you had to move him. You had to be able to do things to get him open. So CJ's a pro. Zubair, he's so good with the ball in his hand. He has a sick jump cut, that's really good, and his wiggle and his vision and those things. And then even Sands, that one-handed catch on the sideline last week looked like
nasty.
Randy Moss.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
running backs aren't supposed to do that.
Nah. But that was a hell of a catch, and those guys are working at it, man. You can tell that they love football. They love playing the game. They love going to practice, and that's what you're looking for. Guys that love playing the game. Guys that love football, because it's going to get hard, right?
Yeah.
You're going to face adversity in this game, but your love for the game can get you through it.
You talked about the offensive front, change in leadership during the course of the week, that position, Coach Chung in there now. Does that change you and how much you're overseeing the offensive line with that shift in leadership in that room going into this Temple game?
Yeah, and the leaders in that room, right?
Yeah.
The leaders in that room got to step up, right? And they got to help. First and foremost, they show Chung the same respect, right? And allow him to, teach. And maybe you take something from him that's different,
Sure.
from Coach Warner. So those things. And then just, Fed being in that room and driving the force there. But, we're going to need those guys this week, like I said earlier. And I've always been an O-line guy. I was never with the wideouts. I was always taking the guys out there because as a quarterback,
yeah, exactly.
Right? When it's third down,
That's
you
your
need those
well-being.
guys.
Yeah.
You need their best.
Yeah,
And that's the thing. You got to earn that from them.
no doubt.
Offensive linemen, I say, man, they're like the salt of the earth, man. They are the best. Some of the best human beings that I've met have been offensive linemen. Just that they get no credit, right? They got to work their ass off, right? They play in the trenches. They're in 70 car crashes a game. They just have a lot of respect for that position.
You can't play offensive line without loving the game
No
of
doubt.
football. Charlie Frye, FAU offensive coordinator, with us. A couple more here before we talk with Haggerty family head coach Tom Herman. Again, Florida Atlantic and Temple Saturday, 2 p.m. on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. The receiving room has picked up so many injuries and been so decimated, and because of that, though, one of the positives, if there are a couple to choose from, is that maybe some guys who weren't going to see a lot of time this year have been able to show out a little bit, and one of them is certainly number 10, Amari Hayes, who, speaking of one-handed catches, he's had a couple in the last few weeks. He's really stood out with that receiver room. Just him specifically, what growth have you seen from Amari Hayes this season? Because dare I say, and I'm not going to compare them, but there are flashes of what you were able to do with LaJonte Wester last year that it appears as if you've been able to do to an extent here with Amari Hayes.
No, Amari's made great. He's had great growth. And what I see his biggest stride has been what he's been able to do at the top of his routes. We were in a stack alignment to the field today, and he ran a corner route, okay? And what he did to the DB at the top of that route, he spun him around. So the investment that he's made as well, and that's what's going to be common about all these guys that we're talking about is they've invested, right? They've invested in their craft to get better, both mentally, watching guys, watching film and those things, and then, doing extra. Right? You'll see him, after practice, before practice, all summer long. You saw the investment that he was making in himself so that he could help his team be better, So that there's no secret to being a good player.
Right.
You have to do more than everybody else. And his hard work is showing up, definitely.
I did want to ask you, just from a perspective of your coaching background, what was it like having a second-year Tua and you witnessing, and obviously he has risen in profile throughout the course of his career, but that year two of the Tua Tagovailoa career, what were some of the attributes you started to see blossoming at that point, what this form is now?
No, you could see it. You could see his growth, and you can call it year one, but year one was COVID.
Sure.
He wasn't even in the building.
Right.
So, it was just.
That's a great point. This was his first true season in the full NFL quarterback experience there.
Yeah, and it was a lot of it was just, just talking with him about process. Right. Okay. This is what a Tuesday looks like.
Yeah.
This is what a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and a lot of the teaching with him was back and forth, because he did so much of that RPO at Alabama. Like, he was telling me some of the things. He was telling me, I'm like, how are you reading this?
Right.
And then they're running this play, the seam post, the wheel, and then there's a slipper coming underneath. They've been running it for 3 years now. Okay, and call it a ton, and it's off of a zone read, and he ripped a wheel in practice. I'm like, how are you seeing that? He's like, I'm cheating the play. I'm seeing the corner. I hope he's not listening. I'm telling his secrets. But, being able to take that from him, okay, then put it up on the whiteboard.
Sure.
Okay, now let's define it. Okay, see through the corner. All right, prepare for, surf, react to an end coming up the field. And then, bang, you give him a process like that, and then his ability takes the rest.
And so, again, Coach Frye has been at every single level, both as a player and as a coach, and always an awesome resource of information. Coach, I appreciate you coming by, taking some time away from the preparation with Temple and with Case and Wiseman and that offense as a whole, and we'll see you Saturday in Philadelphia, okay?
Thanks for having me.
Charlie Frye, FAU offensive coordinator with us here at the Duffys in Boca Raton. When we come back, Harrogate family head coach Tom Herman joins the proceedings. I'm Ken LaVicka. This is the Florida Atlantic Coaches Show on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. Florida Atlantic takes on Temple. It is Owls versus Owls on Saturday. 2 o'clock is the kickoff. It's a 1:30 pregame. Myself, Chris Newbold, have your kickoff. Mike Mareshko, the pregame show on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network, the flagship Fox Sports 640. It'll be the first matchup between these two sides all time. Corona, we all love Owls football season. We also love Corona season, by the way. It's 2 for 1 at Duffy's off St. Andrews and Boca Raton, and every Duffy. So imbibe in some Coronas, won't you? Every bottle of Corona symbolizes the optimistic feeling you have when you're on a beach. No matter where you choose to have one, head to ordercorona.com to live La Vida Más Fina. Relax responsibly. Corona. Florida Atlantic and Temple on Saturday, and let's welcome into this Florida Atlantic Coaches Show Haggerty family head coach Tom Herman on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. Coach, I appreciate you coming by. Certainly, it has been a busy week already to this point.
Yeah.
And I will do my best to try not to be repetitive with what you already covered on Tuesday in your press conference.
Understood.
So, first things first, and again, defensive coordinator Rock Bell and Tony departs the program this week, as does offensive line coach Ed Warner. When it comes to those decisions being made and you determining those decisions needed to be made, what was the timeline of that?
Well, I think the timeline, you're always evaluating every facet of your program, from assistant coaches to support staff to what kind of toilet paper we put in the restrooms,
Sure.
right? And so you're constantly evaluating, and I think there's a lot of things that you evaluate that are independent of the results. And, we know that there's a lot of areas of our program that haven't reached our standards to this point in the season. But, I think we've got a good group of guys on that side of the ball that want to get better. And you said timeline. I was evaluating all season, and it felt like kind of you've heard about leadership when you should act, right? And I just thought there's going to be I couldn't live with myself if I did it the way that probably a lot of coaches in the country are, which are you're going to see a lot of assistant coaches be moved on December 5th. Right. Why December 5th? That's the day after signing day, right? So they're going to trick all these kids into thinking so-and-so is their position coach and all that. They sign on the dotted line. The next day, changes are made. And so I didn't want that. You asked about the timing. So, we had a couple days extra having played on a Thursday. And so it just made sense to give Brandon an opportunity here these last 3 games, which are very winnable, to breathe new life and some energy on that side of the ball that needs it.
Brandon Harris, like you just said, takes over as the interim defensive coordinator. Why Coach Harris? What do you see from him? Leadership capabilities, coaching capabilities that allow him to have this opportunity now?
I've been so impressed with Brandon. As you know, I kept 4 coaches from the previous staff, and wow, I mean he has been so, for a guy that he looks young, but I think he's mid-30s. And he's only, he played in the NFL 7 years,
right.
7 years, and so he didn't start coaching. Yeah, he was playing, but it is a different ball game. Till probably about 4 years ago at FIU. And so, he, to only have that limited experience, himself as a coach, he's so buttoned up. He's got great energy. I think I said it at the press conference. It always impresses me when a coach is respected and liked, right? Mm-hmm. You don't need to be both. Sure. You don't need to be, right? And kind of the Bronx tale, right? You better be loved or feared or whatever. Is it better be respected or liked? If I'm going to choose one, I'm going to choose respected.
No doubt.
Right? Obviously. For some reason, social media platforms don't have a respect button. They have a like button,
right.
Which is
it's
weird.
Because the world overall is shallow, I would say.
So, and so that's what, getting back to Brandon, there's plenty of good coaches that are respected and not liked, plenty of average coaches that are liked and not respected. But to have that combination in a young coach like that, it's really impressive.
Here with Haggerty family head coach Tom Herman. Florida Atlantic takes on Temple on Saturday. We'll be in Philadelphia, 1:30 the pregame, 2 o'clock kickoff on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. Tangibly across the board, defensively, there has been a slide in every major statistical category, both overall and within conference from a year ago. Big plays, one of the largest numbers allowed in the country, 20, 30, 40-plus yards. So for me, though, I guess, when did you feel this starting to slide a little bit? And I know that days feel like weeks, weeks feel like months in a season like this, and within the course of any football season, when did you feel that starting to slide down the mountain?
I don't know. I hadn't thought about that, so I would probably need to put some more thought into it and that creates dead air on the radio.
No, I get
and you don't want that.
No, but I just feel like it was stubborn at the beginning of the year, stingy. It showed characteristics of last year, but then it didn't.
Yeah, injuries play a part, as they do on every side. We're not as good right now with Jaden Williams, and when Wendell's not in there and Day-Day's banged up. And so but that's also part of coaching too. We've got to make sure that the guys behind them are at the level ready to play. And so I think, we're growing. We let's be honest, as I said at the press conference, this was an average to below average Conference USA program from the outside looking in. I don't know anything about the job, the inner workings, anything. But I do know the record and the record within the conference. And we made a decision to go up conferences, and now we kind of understand not just what it takes from a talent and execution level with your first team, but what it takes now that when you hit this part of the season and some of your key guys go down, what does your development of your young guys look like as well? And so those all go into it. And, as we continue to build, the guys that I bring into this program, we've got to be great developers. We've got to be demanding on our guys to do more. Because until that point, until the point that we have the most money in our conference, the players that we get are might be a little bit different, so we've got to overcoach them.
Sure.
Right? We've got to create overachievers, and that can be done, believe it or not. Like, you can teach somebody how to do that. Now, you've got to bring the guy with the right kind of mindset in to be able to even kind of crack that code, but it's been done before, and those are the kind of guys that will continue to try to bring into our program.
When the press release was put out announcing the departure of Coach Rock and Coach Warner, you talked about the identity of the defense, and I believe you said yesterday the identity of the defense needs to change. I did want to ask you, as far as the offense is concerned this year, what would you provide as the identity for the offense in 2024?
We don't have one. We need one on that side of the ball too. I think. It starts up front, and we've not played well there. When we have played well on offense, we've played well up front, and so because again, that side of the ball was hit with injuries too early on in training camp, losing a bunch of wide receivers, and played with 2 tight ends, really, able to practice for 3 weeks, I believe, something like that. So, it took that side of the ball a long time to kind of find any kind of rhythm. And right now, I feel like we're seeing some marginal improvement when you compare it. That's what, when you look at everything, are we getting better or getting worse? And so, and I see the same. I watch the same game everybody else does, and see the same deficiencies. But I also am able to see it maybe at a much deeper level than anybody else, and can see the marginal improvements that are being made on that side of the ball, and obviously not quickly enough, but. We're getting closer on that side for sure.
I do think you put it that way in simple terms, what's improving and what's not improving. And I think when you look at both sides of the ball, it's pretty tangible to the most common observer what the trajectories of both have been over the last couple of weeks, last month or so, especially. When we come back, Kaysen Wiseman's going to get the start against Temple. I want to talk about Kaysen, who looked pretty good in large, vast spurts against East Carolina on Thursday, and an overview of what you are expecting and observing here over the next 3 weeks, the final 3 weeks of the season. So we'll come back more with Haggerty family head coach Tom Herman. We're at the Duffys in Boca Raton off St. Andrews. I'm Ken LaVicka. It's the Florida Atlantic Coaches Show on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. With Haggerty family head coach Tom Herman, I am Ken LaVicka. This is the Florida Atlantic Coaches Show going into Temple on Saturday. And a reminder, Fox Sports 640 is the FAU flagship, and you can listen to games on the free Fox Sports 640 app as well as foxsports640.com. FAU Temple, 2 p.m., 1:30 pregame on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. A couple more minutes here with Haggerty family head coach Tom Herman. Want to thank all of our FAU fans and supporters for coming out here to the Duffys in Boca right off of St. Andrews. Really appreciate you. And so with bowl eligibility out of the picture now, you've got 3 weeks. Last year in this spot, I know you talked about evaluation and talked about preparing for next season. We've also, though, had numerous conversations about you never know what your roster is going to be from one season to the next. So how does Tom Herman approach the next 3 weeks with this football team outside of just trying to get wins?
Well, I think that's it. There's really not a whole lot different you do in terms of preparation. I mean, we're not going to change the way we practice. We're not, we go about our business. We also realize we're playing a few teams that are going through some difficulties too. And so, I think the guy, what I told them on Monday, just talked about pride, right? Like, why does it matter what your record is? Why does it matter what TV station we're on? Why does it matter how many people are in the stands. Like, why would any of that matter? You have an opportunity to go compete. Like, do you realize how many people sitting on their couch never compete ever at anything?
Right.
You know, and so you have the chance to go compete at a very, very high level, to show yourself, to show your God, the people who you do love and do care about, what they think of you, who you are as a man. And to me, it's pretty black and white. You know, it's kind of not hard when you say it that way. It's like, yeah, I'd be a fool if I didn't give anything other than everything I have.
We've talked a lot about player retention, and that's certainly going to come into play.
Yeah.
Our two-part question here. Are you just concerned the way this season has gone from a player retention perspective? And also, have you already started to identify major targets of retention for the 2025 campaign?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I know. I'm not concerned about because the season hasn't gone the way, I'm sure, Coach Norvell up in Tallahassee went 13-0, and I'm sure they lost a bunch
Barely retained anybody, right.
Correct. And
right.
so because
Sure.
it doesn't matter how good that season is.
No doubt.
Again, you're going to have guys on your roster that you think, hey, okay, here's this young redshirt freshman. He's a 3 right now. He's on the travel squad. We play him on some special teams. Man, he shows some flashes. Boy, he's going to be a heck of a player for us for a few years. Well, all the while, he's sitting there ticked off, because it's his second year,
right.
And he's not the guy. And by the time you get around to December, hey, Johnny, we want to talk to you. We've been really impressed. Johnny's already checked out.
Right.
Johnny's his agent has already talked to
There's 15 coaches in his DMs.
Yeah, and so I think everybody is dealing with. I mean, we've got there's teams with records that when you look at who they have, they shouldn't be right the record, and so you wonder where is that disconnect, and so it's an interesting time, and I think that's why I'm so thankful for Brian White and this administration for being aligned at the top. I really believe I'm so proud of the freshman class that we have on the field right now. The ones that are in that locker room, the C.J. Hurds, the Mike Wrights, you name it. I'm thrilled to death of the freshman class that we're going to sign here in less than a month, and so. We want that core nucleus of guys to come in, and we understand the way that the world works. We got to sprinkle in guys here and there, and you and I have had the conversation much more about production than it is about stars when you came out of high school, I think, moving forward. And so that's our big job is retention. We've got some really good young players on our team, but they didn't play a whole lot this year, right? So they've got to have some belief in you and the plan and the vision. And so, going back to our administration and Brian White and crew, I think, again, when you talk about moving up in conferences, kind of we're going to do this the right way. You're going to crack a few eggs on your way to making that omelet, but it's going to taste really good, and it's going to last for a long time.
Case and Wiseman over the next 3 games, what an opportunity for him. When all is said and done, does he have the opportunity to play himself into the discussion, into a competition to be the starting quarterback 2025?
You sound so much like a reporter
I know,
right there. Like
I know. I'm sorry.
You knew that question.
I know.
So I don't. You know what? I don't know that if Case and Wiseman is even going to start Saturday. You know why? Because he might get sick tomorrow. He might get in an accident. So I don't know, Ken. I mean, they're all going to compete after the season for every job.
Okay. The only reason I ask
you needed like a fedora and a press pass and a cigar.
Coach, let me ask you. All right. It is a great opportunity for him. Notwithstanding, what has he shown you from an improvement standpoint, and why are you comfortable, unless he gets sick or hurt before Saturday, with him being the starting quarterback for this football team?
I heard Coach Frye talk about the intangibles and all that. I I go back to, when I worked for Mac Brown, and, he used to say, talk about it. Mm-hmm. Does he have it?
Sure.
And his saying after he said, does he have it, was, and if you have to ask what it is, you don't have
it, right? You don't know what it is. Exactly.
So he's got it. He's got moxie. He's got swagger. He's got, the great ones I've coached. He can put a chew of tobacco in and go fishing off the pier with the O lineman, and he can go out on the Ave with the wide outs. He fits in with them all. Uh-huh. They all like him, and much like I said about Coach Harris, he's liked and respected, which I think is it's fun to be around. And now we're gonna make sure he has a good game before we have a fun relationship together, and I really like coaching him.
There is football on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Temple is the opponent on Saturday. They also a season that they wish have gone a different way. But what an I feel like just based on everything this week and going into this, what a great opportunity to go win a football game on Saturday.
Exactly. This is. I told our guys with the first practice we had. That's kind of my vision. This kind of group of guys that. They got all this crap going on outside of them, and things haven't gone their way, and they're in this like foxhole, right? And they got to get out, and then it's like, okay, boys, and they put the mud on the face, and they're dripping blood, and you got one guy pushing another guy up to try to, and you got dirt in your fingernails and all that stuff. This isn't going to be a pretty one. This isn't going to be prime time on ESPN. We're going to be playing in a giant stadium with very few people in it, like. Just go compete.
Football
right?
in its purest form Saturday.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly what we talked about on Monday about the pride and just you as a man. Like you have this opportunity to go compete and show yourself how much improvement you've made over the course of the week to go test your mettle against a similar opponent. Man, what an opportunity.
Coach, really appreciate you coming by. Thank you for the insight with everything here today as well. And we'll talk to you Saturday in Philly, and post-game we'll talk about a W.
All right. Go FAU. I'm not going to say go Owls this week. Go FAU.
That is Haggerty family head coach Tom Herman here at the Duffy's in Boca Raton. Want to thank everybody for coming out. A reminder, 2 o'clock kickoff, 1:30 pregame, Florida Atlantic Sports Network, Fox Sports 640, Fox Sports 640 app, foxsports640.com. We'll talk to you next Wednesday here at the Duffy's for another Florida Atlantic Coaches Show.